But in that battle also, Sudas was victorious, and all these 10 confederation kings have to flee to the west. So Samvarnas fled further westward and then started living in the Sarayu, that is a tributary of Sindhu, the Sarayu region. So the Sindhu Sarayu region. He has to live there. So I mean, yeah. So this Samvarna has fled from here to this Asikni region, and then come back for the battle of Parushni, or the Dasarajna battle, which was fought in the Parushni river. Again he got defeated. He went like this and then gone to the this particular region, and he again tried to break that in the Sarayu region. Yeah, this is the Dasarajna battle, right? So from here, the Samvarna come and attack Sudas. So between these two armies, so this is the 10 kings. 10 kings, and then this is some Sudas fighting from here, and then they went westward. Yeah. So this is the after the Dasarajna battle, they went and lived here. This is the Sindhu Sarayu region. So within this region, Samvarna lived, and after that, elapsed around 1000 years elapsed. So the descendant of Samvarna, named Kuru, he returned back when the conditions in this this region, what do you call this Vara Prithviya region become favorable. He returned back. So after the Samvarna, that is the Puru, got defeated in the battle with Sudas in the early Ṛgvedic period. Around 1000 years elapsed, and then a branch of the descendant branch of the Samvarna came back as Kurus, and that is when we renamed it as Kurukshetra. So I wanted to tell that. That is why I told all these stories. So then till that after 1000 years, 1000 years after this, next Vara Prithvi and Napha Prithvi were assigned to this region. King Kuru born as a descendant of Samvarna, who was living in the Sindhu Sarayu region. He migrated from that region to again back to Haryana, that is, and they started living in the Saraswati, Prashadvati region. And that time, he was a dominant king. The Kuru was a dominant king. And by the time this the Bharatas, the descendants of Sudas, they became very weak. And there were some earlier battle with the Anavas, who also came back earlier than Kuru, that is earlier than Kuru here. And before Kuru came here, the Anavas who migrated and lived along with the Samvarna in the Sindhu Sarayu region, they came back, a part of them. Okay, another part went to Iran, and they started living in Iran, and they are the Iranians. But the half of them, they returned back, and they occupied this particular region, the Vara Prithviya region. And this occupation of the Anavas in the Vara Prithviya region is what triggered a lot of stories in the Puranas about the Asuras coming and conquering the Swarga. Because this Vara Prithviya or Napha Prithviya, that is the ancestral or the native place of all these kings, also considered as Swarga. And it is, see, some poets say that your native region, native country, or your native place is equal to heaven, and that is absolutely true in case of Ṛgveda and Itihasa Puranas, because this same region, this small rectangle, is also considered as heaven, Swarga. So when the Anavas, who were thousands of years back, they were living here, but because of the conflicts with kings, dominant kings like Sudas, they had to flee. And when they came back and occupied the Kurukshetra, this particular Vara Prithviya region, so the rishis who are affiliated to them, so most of the rishis who are affiliated to them, they consider it as a kind of asuras coming and occupying the Swargaloka. And then there is some other battles, and they went out to this. So this is what this particular historical event triggered a lot of Puranic stories about Devasara battles, the battles between Sudas and other kings, or battles between the Anavas and the Bharata kings. They are all romanticized in as a Devasura battles. So these are the kind of some of the battles like that. And after some more time, maybe after 100 more years, Kuru also. One more thing, because of this dominance of the Anavas here, the descendants of Sudas, there were two powerful kings, Sahadeva and Somaka, in the middle Ṛgvedic period, who were descendants of Sudas. But after Somaka, there were no big king. The typical happens in a kind of royal dynasty. There will be a couple of big great kings, and then slowly the dynasty doesn't have a good king. No, there will not be any brave king, and slowly the dynasty start declining. So the same thing happened to the descendants of the Sudas who were living in this region, the Varaprithvya region. So by the time Anavas came and occupied here, they went southwards, and that is where the south of this Drishadvati river is the Kurujangala. So these people came and started occupying the Kurujangala and the Delhi region. Maybe let me see. Yeah, see this is the terminal. This is the boundary between Kurukshetra and Kurujangala is the Drishadvati river. So these people went downward, southwards, and they started living here. And this is also reflected in the Ṛgveda, where some new river names like Anjasi, Tulsi, Veerapatni, Shifa, all these names started appearing in the period when these people were totally beaten and were living in the southern part of the Kurukshetra, that is the Kurujangala region. They were living in the Delhi region. So they are one of the oldest attested people who lived in Delhi, for example. And if I tell the name, you will become very, very, very clear. So there is Sudas. They were none other than the Panchalas. So they were living here actually. In the middle, towards the end of Ṛgvedic and the beginning of the late Ṛgvedic period. So that time they were living here. So all these things happened, and later, of course, when the Pandavas were living, the Panchalas were further moved to the eastern side, and they were somewhere here. But when during the Rama's period, when the Dasharatha died, Vasishtha sent some messengers. When they passed through, they were able to locate the Panchala region somewhere here. So between Ramayana and Mahabharata, between Rama's period and Pandava's period, around 100 years difference. So in that 100 years, this migration from this region to the eastern side, wherever currently the Panchalas are located, that is to the east of Ganga, that occurred. But 100 years before the Pandavas lived, that is during the period of lifetime of Rama, the Panchalas were in the southern part of the Kurukshetra, in the Gangala and the Delhi region. So these are all the political things happened. So just I'm telling you so that in subsequent chapters you will be able to recognize the major geopolitical events that has been happening when the Ṛgveda was being created, the evolving. Of course, about this particular sacred region called the 0 point of the Ṛgveda, nothing other than Kurukshetra. So maybe in today's topic, the focus is like this Manusha and so the Manusha and Ilaspada, and the 4 of the Ṛgveda, if you can remember, it is good. Tarantuka, Arantuka, Ramahrita, and Machakruta. And these 4 corners are not mentioned in Ṛgveda, but this is additional information you get from the Mahabharata. And the Ramahrita has its own significance because this is place where related to the Bhargava Rama, Parshurama, that is Jamadagnya, Rama Jamadagnya. He is especially again it's an Idihasic narrative of he fought with the Kshatriyas and then cleansed himself in the 5 lakes in this region. So that lakes are called Ramahrita. Hrada means lake. Ramahrita means Rama's lake. And this Rama is basically the Parshurama, that is Bhargava or Rama Jamadagnya. So that is what the Ramahrita is, the southwestern corner of it. And Machakruka, Tarantuka, and Arantuka, they don't have similar kind of narratives, but all the four corners of the Kurukshetra are protected by yakshas. So that is why he called current name now the Rantuk Yaksh. Current name is a today's name. And again in the pilgrim circuit, you will be able to go there. The parikrama I mentioned, Rantuk Yaksh, Behar Yaksh. These are names of some yakshas. They are considered as guardians of the Kurukshetra in the four corners. And in the Ramakrada, you have a yakshi. And people go and worship the yakshi temple here. And Machakruka, another yaksha is there. So that is how it is. And the one thing I left out is the Bharati Tirtha. So Bharati Tirtha is not explicitly mentioned in the Ṛgveda. But as I mentioned in the Apari Suktas, three devatas are mentioned, three goddesses. One is Saraswati. So this Manusha is basically corresponding to Saraswati. And then the second goddess is Ila. She is now represented as Ilaspada here geographically. And the third one is Bharati. So these three holy spots in the Ṛgveda correspond to the three goddesses worshipped as part of the Apari Suktas. These are like Paradevatas or Kuladevatas of the Bharatas. So, and Kuladevatas or the Kuladevatas will always be part of your native place. So that is why the Bharatas have these three Kuladevatas, three Devatas. They are again definitely part of their native place. That is the Kurukshetra. So that is this third place. But this is not explicitly mentioned in the Ṛgveda, but implicitly mentioned through the Apari Suktas. And the Manusha and Ilaspada are directly mentioned as two places. And passing through this river, close to Manusha is the Apaya river. Apaya, that Nadi, the Apaya river. It's currently the current status of Apaya is that it is a tributary of Saraswati. See, it goes and joins Saraswati river, very small river. But in much ancient period, the Saraswati's the course of Saraswati was like this. So, see, Saraswati was flowing like this, through the Apaya channel. So, Apaya is actually the old course of Saraswati through Kurukshetra. Later on, see as typical of the rivers, they change the direction. So somewhere here, the Saraswati changed course and then started flowing here. So what happened to the older flow? It became a small tributary and started flowing like this. So it will be active only in a rainy season. That rain will come here, then river will start flowing. And this is the Apaya river. But the people in this region understood the significance of the Apaya river because this is more ancient. And even the name itself, Apaya is the oldest river name because Apaya simply means flow of water. So, because that is how the Sanskrit people using Vedic language, whenever they see a river, they say it's a flow of water. So it's a very generic name, and slowly it became a river name. Apaya means simply flow of water. So that's this river name. So I think I covered that as well. So, and of course, the Drishatvati have multiple names. So the Kulisi, this is the later name, middle Ṛgvedic name of the Drishatvati river. Then Raupya river. This is the name by which it is mentioned in Mahabharata. All these things. Then there are two rivers, Haryupya and Yavyavati. Haryupya is another name of Drishatvati, while it is talked in pair with the Yavyavati river. The Yavyavati is a channel of Yamuna. So all these different channels, because the river dynamics keep on changing, and since this Ṛgveda basically have more than 1,000 years of period of chronological history, all these things happen. So yeah, so here the real names of these places. Manusha is known as Manas. Ilaspada is currently known as Shergar, and Bharati Tirtha is now known as Koyar. So if you go and look at the maps, you can see all these names: Koyar, Shergar, Manas, Behar Yaksha, Rantuk Yaksha. Ramakrita is known as Ramrai, and Machakruka is known as Seed. All these places are part of the pilgrim circuit, the parikrama that I mentioned that is happening in the Kurukshetra parikrama, like that. I mean, you will be able to actually experience these places.
So one of the first, I'm glad you mentioned the Api Suktas. The fact that Ila, Bharti, Saraswati are mentioned in all the Api Suktas of many of the sages, I mean, of many of the family lineages, that means that all those rishis were staying there in that area.
Yeah, yes, yes. So these rishis were living along with the Bharatas. They were the main patrons. So most of the patron kings, they were the Bharata lineage kings, with a few exceptions from the Ikshvaku lineage. So the rishis lived in the patronage of the kings.
Right. But, sir, we then see that in Rigved, we see that Brahaspati and Indra and Bhrugu are very ancient rishis. They are dating pre-Rigved. Is that right, sir?
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah,
So where are they from? Like, where is Brahaspati from and Bhrigu from?
yeah, yes, yes. As I mentioned, like I mentioned about Abhyavartin Chayamana, who is an Anava king, and he was within the territory of the Kurukshetra, sharing territory with the Bharata king called Srinjaya, who is an ancestor to Devadasa and much earlier king, and even earlier to the Rigveda. I mean, start of the Rigvedic, the sixth mandala, because in the sixth mandala, Srinjaya is mentioned as an ancient figure. So all these people were living together in the same region. So, see, for example, in the later, the Bhrigus basically are considered as a kind of a priest class for the Anava kings. So they were, see, there is a certain period of history where they were in the western side. Correct. So because there was a migration happening, and the Anavas migrated to the west, and some of the maybe 60 to 60% of the Anavas migrated even further west into Iran, etc. So a lot of researchers associate the Anavas and their priests, the Bhrigus, everybody with the western countries like Iran and Turkey. Phrygia, for example, Phrygia is actually a kind of the ancient Bhrigus were living there, and then that is called start becoming known as Phrygia. So when you really, for some typical of the Western scholars, they will take it from some bits and pieces here and there. So they automatically assume all these people are Western kings or Western people. So if you look at a lot of literature about the Ṛgvedic people, some of the like books may say that the Bhrigus, the Phrygians, they came from Turkey and then they crossed the Himalayan mountains through the mountain passes of Afghanistan, came to India, etc. But thing is, what they are, because they are not looking at the Ṛgvedic data. So as I said, as in answering your question, everybody was concentrated in the Haryana region in the ancient past because this was the origin of our culture. So maybe now it is inconceivable that all these people were, but there were not many number of people at that time. So they were living. If you look at the population chart of the world, population graph of the world, now you will have very 2%, 1% of the current population if you just go to 3000 BC. So that's a very less, like 1% of the current population in 3000 BC. It's very less population. So all this, see, we are all, Rigveda is basically about literature of a certain people, and any kind of people have a certain point of origin, and that certain point of origin is very small compared to today. So that culture originates from a point region, a point or a small region, and then it spreads to everywhere like that. So there was an ancient past, like as I mentioned, wherein all these rishis, including the Prabhus and the Angirasas. So Brihaspati is basically an Angirasa king. Sorry, Angirasa individual. So Brihaspati represent Angirasa lineage, and any Bhrigu represent the Bhargava, the Bhrigu lineage. Bhrigu sages represent the Bhrigu lineage. They were all living together in that same region, that is maybe somewhere close to the Manusha, because that is where the Manu was there. And all the Rishi Gotras, very familiar Rishi Gotras, and the Raja Vamsha, like Ikshvaku and the the Chandra, these Kuru, Bharata or Kuru lineage, everything have that same origin. And the ascetic lineages, that is the Angirasas and the Bhrigus, both of them, they are the dominant ascetic lineages who are living there. But of course, within the Ṛgvedic period itself, they were living in western regions. So somewhere in the 6th and 7th mandala, because of the expulsion by the Sudas, so the Bhrigus were living along with the Anavas to the west of the Asikni river, along the Chenab river, and then Vidasta, and some of the Bhrigus also went along with the Anavas into Afghanistan, Iran, and even go to the particular region called Turkey. And there they were called Phrygians. And then even some of them were they went to the Ireland, and then you have the goddesses named Phrygia, etc. in Ireland. So here I need to make a disclaimer. See, there are two types of spread: the spread of people as well as spread of culture. So we have to make it. We are not saying that en bloc people migrated from India to Iraq. I mean, the Anavas and the Bhrigus migrated en bloc from Saraswati to Chenab, that is Asikni River, and then to Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, and finally to Ireland. So that's not correct. See, maybe few people gone there, and then it's cultural spread. Once you establish a culture, then large number of the people who are native to Ireland, they may not be having any connection with the Kurukshetra or anything, but they absorbed that culture, and then they started worshipping goddesses like Phrygia, which very clearly connect them to Bhrigus. So this distinction also we have to mention very clearly.
Right, so thank you. Another thing is, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting anybody else's question, but I have two, three more. One of them is, as per what you said, so that means that the Anavas that came back and stayed in the Nabi, I mean, in the main region, so these were basically instrumental in all the myths that we hear of Asuras and Suras, Devas. So does that mean that the Anavas were the Asuras?
Yes. So if you look at the Itihasas and Puranas, you will see the two groups, Daitya and Danava, are together called the Asuras. Even though the Ṛgveda doesn't agree with that, because the word Asura in the older Ṛgveda represents both, even the Vedic people also, like Indra or Varuna, all people were considered as Asura because it was a honorific. It is as good as saying, see, nowadays people are very popularly say Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, etc. So that word Lord, if you translate into early Ṛgveda, it is Asura. So we have to call Asura Krishna, Asura Rama, etc. So whatever we currently use the word Lord, that is the meaning of Asura. But later on, because it's like the word Asura got out of fashion in the middle and late Ṛgvedic period, and the Vedic people stopped using that. But the other group, the people who are opposed to the Indra, they continue to use that word Asura as a honorific. And then people started associating the word Asura as a negative term. And these are the people who are the Anavas. Basically, they don't like Indra. The Anavas don't like Indra. And the Anavas basically are transformed or represented in the Puranas in two groups as Daitya and Danava. And these two groups are sometimes mentioned as distinct groups, other times are synonymous to each other. For example, in the Mahabharata, sometimes you call Mahabali as a Daitya, other times he is called a Danava. So that it started using very loosely, but they are always mentioned as Asuras.
I see, sir. Thank you for that clarification. Another thing, it was always confusing to me, and I'll be grateful if you can clear that. So Indra is supposed to be the son of Kashyapa. Now, yes. Now, if you in the Rigveda lineage, we see the mandala of the Kashyap coming much later on, whereas Indra has been worshipped in 6th mandala also, in the oldest mandala.
Yeah. So that's I have actually clarified this in the previous talk, but I can mention Indra. The Ṛgveda very clearly mentioned associate Tatwashtar as the father figure of Indra. And the
Yes, yes, you mentioned that. Yes, right.
Twashtar, the architect. The architect got Twashtar as the father
Yes,
figure
yes.
of Indra.
Mm.
And the relationship is not very clearly mentioned, but in a poetry, I mean, it's a Ṛgvedic poetry. It's indirectly hinted that Twashtar is the father of Indra. And of course, only in the Puranas, only in the late Ṛgvedic literature, you see Indra connected with Kashyapa. So, because what happens is the Kashyapa lineage become very dominant. In the Rigveda, Kashyapa lineage started dominant only in the 8th mandala. Till before that, there were Kashyapas, but no importance were given to the Kashyapas. So, what is Kashyapas are basically Kashmiris and Kashmiri sages. So, Kashyapa sages started interacting with the Rigvedic people, and they started becoming dominant in the Rigvedic study and everything. So, if you look at in the later literature, they say that all the creatures, including animals, plants, Adityas, Daityas, Danavas, human, everybody like considered as born from the wives of Kashyapa. So that kind of a narrative is a later Vedic narrative.
So, sir, if Indra is the son of Tvastara, then wasn't he a Bhrigu?
No, Twashtar basically is a kind of a ancient Devata, right? So if you personify him, he is a very ancient figure. Even like somewhat like, of course, somewhat like ancient like Bhrigu, but there is no mention of Twashtar as a Bhrigu. Basically, I consider Twashtar because he is an architect. He is a creator of cities and also chariots and also a lot of weapons and so many instruments, etc. He has to be associated with the Harappan civilization or Sindhu Saraswati civilization. So he basically in Rigveda, Twashtar is a kind of a representation of the Sindhu Saraswati civilization. He's an architect, so he's architect of cities, etc. So if you want, if we actually try to historicize Twashtar, like historical figure of Twashtar, he should be some early founder of a Harappan city.
Okay. Okay, sir. Another thing is that there is a lot of theory that anything above the Narmada is Swarg and below the Narmada is Patal. Like, is that right?
Yeah, that is right from the point of Puranas because because Narmada was a kind of a geographical terminus for the people from the Kurukshetra, the Vedic people from the Kurukshetra region when they spread everywhere, like westwards into Pakistan, Afghanistan. So they also spread southwards into all over India. Now, so there was a period when everything stopped at Narmada. Similarly, you have Vaitarani River in Vaitarani is a river in the eastern side. Narmada is in the west. In the eastern side, there is a Vaitarani River, which is currently in Odisha. So it is considered as the boundary, and if you cross it and go southward, it is hell. So these are all kind of narratives created when we were where the Vedic civilization spread. It was at a stage where it was spread up to Narmada in the north and up to Vaitarani in the south, Vaitarani in the eastern side up to Vaitarani, and that is the Kalinga region. It is considered as a gateway into Kalinga. After Vaitarani, it is Kalinga, and the Brahmanas typically they stop at Kalinga. They will not travel. So in the Mahabharata, there is a mention about Pandava Arjuna traveling. He was in exiled from Kurukshetra, and then he was traveling and he reached up to Kalinga, and till Kalinga Brahmanas were following him. And after that, the Brahmanas said goodbye, and then Arjuna proceeded further southwards, crossing the Vaitarani river and going to Kalinga access. Same thing, Yudhishthira pilgrimage. He was reaching up to up to Vaitarani, and then there was a kind of a hesitation, and then going further southwards. So people, because of lack of familiarity, nothing wrong about anybody living to the south of Vaitarani or Narmada, but the people of Kurukshetra or Vedic people who are spreading from the Kurukshetra region, they will have some hesitation. So anybody who is going to an unknown territory will have this hesitation, and that hesitation is reflected in these kind of beliefs.
I see. Okay, sir. Lastly, when you mentioned the Tirthasthana in the Haryanvi region, which is surrounded by the Yakshas,
Yeah.
so does this Yakshas have anything to do with Ravana?
So again in the word yaksha is there in the Ṛgveda, right? So it's a very positive term. It means to do yajna, etc. So do yaja means to worship. So yakshas are basically so that is a positive. Even Rakshasa, everything is very positive, right? So yaksha means the people who are worshipping. They are the worshippers who are worshipping in yajna. They are called the yakshas originally. But of course, that terminology got just like the asuras become a positive term, slowly becoming foreign and negative. So the word yaksha started associating with a group of people. And now when you say yaksha and all, then you feel like, I mean, like
It's a demonic, yeah.
as a demigod, etc. With some benevolence, and sometimes they become angry and they can even hurt you or punish you. So that kind of a narrative came. But originally they were all positive terms. If you say precisely, not anyway related to the Ravana, but see, when you asked the very important, beautiful question about Narmada, right? So the Ravana is very much related to Narmada. There were some Rakshasas and Yakshas living in Narmada, and Ravana's ancestry is very much connected with the Narmada. I have mentioned that very importantly in my book.
Salkantaka, I mean, that was his ancestry, the Salkantaka.
Yeah. So Geography of Ramayana is the book where I have mentioned about what is the significance of Narmada in connection to Ravana.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the session. And yeah, please try to participate in live, because then you all can engage with sir for the question answer and things. So we really encourage you to participate in the live sessions. But of course, if it is missed, you can it will be available in the YouTube as well. We'll share the links. Thank you all. Let us close by chanting Loka Samasta. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.